talking to a guy who was not mentioned in a book in which he claims he has contributed immensely.
The idea of the book, there is no question about who came with the idea. That's not what I'm contesting. What I'm contesting is you cannot have me participate in a book project, contribute my intellect, contribute in terms of my time and my research expertise, and then you publish a book and you don't acknowledge me.
During that 3 years that you worked in the book, I want us to give a context. Did you have any fallout with him?
The fallout happened when I visited Mr. Mashele with my wife.
Oh, so the problem was with you sharing too much information about the book with your wife, the executive mayor at the time.
He says, yeah, no, but Mpo knows about the funding. I said, yes.
Yeah.
I didn't.
She's your wife, yeah.
She's my wife. Yes, I shared with her that we got paid. I got paid for working on the book.
Could it be the fact that your wife knew about the funding, it then exposed the intention to lie about the funding of the book by Prince Mashele? Could that be the case?
I don't know. You should host. You should host Mr. Mashele. You should host Mr. Mashele to explain himself. But
yes.
But I never. You see, we were conducting research around the book openly. So there was never an impression that was given that the issue is a secret.
Botani Mawetu, and welcome to the Sheds. My name is Nyaniso Jeku. We are shedding the light on all issues pertaining to everything that matters in this country. I'm not alone. I'm with Kostana Lkocholo. Mhlekazi ndimasiari.
Ndimasiari mhlekazi. I'm also learning.
But mhlekazi awuna kakati, ikhonde ne kakati phakathi. We're shedding the light on Brutus Malada, on everything concerning writing, on everything concerning political vice, on everything concerning being a strategist. And most importantly, did he or did he not write the book? Did he contribute 1%, 20%, 30%, 40%? Did he write the book altogether? We're talking to a guy who was not mentioned in a book in which he claims he has contributed immensely. Guys, welcome to the Sheds.
Good afternoon, Dima Siarabudi. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for hosting me.
Maybe you should write about yourself.
It will be an autobiography.
An autobiography?
Yes. If I write it myself,
yes,
it will be an autobiography.
Okay.
It shall come.
It shall come, definitely. Yes. Yeah. And it will be authorized or unauthorized? It will be authorized.
It will be my biography. So
you'll be telling your story.
It will be authorized. Yes.
I wanted to first ask you about this. Last year, you were on the highlight for having married an executive mayor. And you appeared to have done that. You know, if I were to get married to an executive mayor, it would be the biggest wedding ever. But you seem to have quietly done that.
Yeah, look, both my wife and I are in the public space. Yeah. And there was always a dynamic that I was an employee of the city.
Yes.
And it was very difficult to keep the relationship a secret. There are so many people that are involved in her life, in her capacity then as the mayor. So we feared that this relationship is going to come out. But our relationship had matured, it had gone to the level where we were taking things serious. So we didn't want a relationship that would go out and actually undermine the dignity of the office. Yes. And then we decided that, you know what, it is important for us to formalize things and go public. We were planning to go public ourselves, but someone leaked the pictures before we could actually do it.
And they trended.
But it was a blessing in disguise because helped us not to have questions lingering anymore. So we didn't need to host a press conference to announce our marital issues. So having those pictures out, it also was a sense of relief for us. Now, we did a private matrimonial event. And we did that because we understood that if we went public, it would have been an event that we would lose control of. But we had the agency to be able to do what we needed to do before anyone could talk about it in the dark corners. But we remain to have our own plan where we will invite people to come and celebrate with us our marriage, and that day is coming.
Cool. Just to finish this part, when your wife, the former executive mayor of Joburg, being married to a mayor, a powerful a decision maker, who takes decisions affecting millions of people.
The residents,
Do you get to whisper an idea or two, but hey, for service delivery issues? Also take into account that Action SA, DA, and all of that, those dynamics.
Okay, look, our relationship is a relationship of trust and respect. We respect the boundaries of our political affiliations, and none of us is trying to convince the other to join the other. So we respected the fact that we were working in a coalition. There were areas of mutual interest for the two parties, and then we'll collaborate. But there were areas in which the two political parties could be competing, and we respected those boundaries, that it is not our space to be discussing such sensitive issues. It will be dealt with at appropriate forums. But do I share my view?
Yes.
At a private level, yes. We have robust engagements at home. I always wanted to marry a soulmate, a person that we can have conversations with. We can wake up at 3 a.m. and have discussions about anything under the sun.
Talk about service delivery.
And I am happy. We discuss books. We discuss issues of public management. We discuss issues of governance. And we share divergent views. There is always a robust engagement at home.
In fact, I wanted to ask this. I'm glad that Brutus brought this one up, and I think recently, I think it's either yourself or your wife. You shared a post on Twitter where they were both in their regalia, political regalia, where you're wearing Action SA and she was wearing DA in the same car, driving to a by-election. And I think this opened a lot of discussion. How did you find that? The reception was good, I think.
Yeah, look. There is a by-election in Enadale. Both of us are required by our political parties to go and campaign. Now, what is the point of driving two cars when we are going to the same place?
The same destination,
And we are competing. And we needed to, it was a what do you call it? A lift club.
Oh, okay.
So we decided, we are going to the same place. There's no need for us to use two cars. Fuel is very expensive these days. So we got on one car and we went. When we arrived there, I went to the gazebo of Action SA. She went to the gazebo of the DA.
That's nothing wrong with that. He's got a lot of books that he brought here. And I think he wants us to take us through the books. There must have been a story. And I think the story in the books will help us understand his story in that book.
Yes, of course. I brought these books in order to dispel the myth that is out there around the controversy of the book on Herman Mashaba. Now, if you allow me, in academics, there are standards and ethics. So if you are an academic and you put together a team to work with you on a research project and you publish it 10 years later, you need to acknowledge the people that you have been working with. And that is the standard. If you don't do that, you are guilty of misrepresentation as well as you are bordering on being unethical. So what has happened in this book, the first grievance I had about the book was that I worked on the book for 3 years. In 2019, I resigned as an employee of the city of Johannesburg. And I went to work full-time on the book. Mr. Mashele approached me and requested me to come and be part of the book project. And I had to be full-time, so I resigned to work on the book for 3 years.
So your resignation was solely motivated by you going to work on the book project?
Yes, it was for me to be full-time on the book project.
Having been approached by Prince Marshall?
Yes, having been approached by Prince Marshall. So the idea of the book, there is no question about who came with the idea. That's not what I'm contesting. What I'm contesting is you cannot have me participate in a book project, contribute my intellect, contribute in terms of my time and my research expertise, and then you publish a book and you don't acknowledge me. There is no dispute around who the author of the book is. The author is Prince Marshall. But I deserve to be acknowledged for the contribution that I've made. Failing to do so is it's what I call academic thuggery.
Did he tell you why he committed what you call academic thuggery? If you resigned and you go and worked on the book and he publishes it, he does not mention you, not even your first name or your surname or even your initials on the book. Did he tell you why? Did you ask him?
No, I have not had an opportunity to discuss with Mr. Marshall. The only information I've got is after his interviews, where he says on one of the interviews with one of the media houses, he explained that he instructed Jonathan Ball to remove my acknowledgement because of the dispute or of the fallout between him and I. And I find it very unreasonable. I find it very unfair and unjustifiable. The problem with academic thuggery is this. Imagine if professors at university, they work with students or with other researchers on a massive multi-million project. And on the verge of it being published, its conclusion, they create a dispute. And then they can use that as an excuse as to why they're not acknowledging someone. Then we will have a serious problem in academia of lack of ethics and standards. And academic thuggery will be perpetuated to the detriment of the growth of new young researchers.
Was the removal of your name from the book done based on the interactions you had with him on matters unrelated to the book, or you were complaining, or sort of what was the problem?
So this is the context of what happened. Mr. Marshall and I are friends of more than 20 years, 25 years, approximately 25 years.
Known him, yeah.
So we have known each other very, very well. And we have worked together on several projects. The reason why I brought these books is to demonstrate the relationship that I've had with Mr. Marshall.
Okay.
This book, called The Fall of the ANC, was conceptualized
I just want to show the camera.
together with a group of intellectuals calling ourselves the Midrand Group. I was part of that.
The Midrand Group.
The Midrand Group. Now, here, Mr. Mashele has acknowledged me, dedicated a full paragraph.
Wow.
Brutus Malada, an exceptionally talented member of the Midrand Group, deserves to be singled out. He read and reread bits, chapters, and the whole manuscript before what you are reading resembled a book. Not only did he read, he instructed us to return to the library to find more evidence to back up some of the wildest claims we had made. What you are reading partly showcases the sharpness of Malada's eye.
Wow.
I did not write a single chapter in this book. All I did was to critique, to give my views about what is lacking in the book and what they need to do to enhance it. But I was given that acknowledgement. Now, Mr. Mashele and I, in this book, I worked with him for 3 years. I contributed to, this book has 30 chapters.
In total?
In total.
Yeah.
This book.
This book has 30 chapters in it. Out of those 30 chapters, you are going to find no less than 25 chapters where the origin of the chapter is me. How did I do it? We would go to Mr. Mashaba, interview him. We'll go to the relatives, interview them. We'll go to friends, interview them. I collate that information. I read what Mr. Mashaba did when he was mayor. I read what Mashaba has written in his own books. I retrieve literature, some of it that is available in the internet. And then I start to conceptualize a chapter. Let's say a chapter on growing up. We were looking at how Mr. Mashaba grew up. I'll go to the book that he wrote, his own story. I'll go to the interview we had and listen. And then I frame themes out of that and produce a chapter. And when I
So
produce
you
that chapter,
literally produce
I produce a draft chapter. I send it to Mr. Mashel. Mr. Mashel will look at the chapter. He will go through it, enhance it, and he will say, you missed this point. Go back, go get this. And I will get that, enhance the chapter, will finalize it. He will send me the final chapter, and I will make my final comments on it, and we finalize the chapter. So that's how we worked. So when I say I contributed more than 80% of the book, I mean exactly that. That I was responsible for generating the first draft of about 80% of the chapters that are in the book. So I feel aggrieved that Mr. Mashele could work with me for 3 years and not acknowledge my work and my contribution. There would be no book without the work of a researcher. But Mr. Mashele fails to acknowledge the substantive contribution that I made. That is one of the core disputes about the book.
In studio, we are still with Mr. Brutus, talking about all his contribution to the books that he's written, and the most controversial one, The Outsider, the unauthorized biography of Herman Mashaba. Welcome back
And
to the
is
studio.
it the unauthorized biography?
That's exactly the second point. So I worked on the book for 3 years. And my last contribution to the book would have been around February 2022.
Oh, okay.
And I'm done. And then Mr. Mashele has the 4th year, which will be to and fro with the publishers. Find a publisher and send the manuscript, and then they will be editing and finalizing the copy. Now, I was not involved in that process. So, fast forward, the book is about to be published. I see on Jonathan Ball website that there is a forthcoming book.
Okay.
But at that point, I'm not yet sure that is the final. I need to find myself a copy. I don't have a copy at the time. And then I hear that there is a book launch. I wait for my invitation, it doesn't come.
Oh,
So you're not even invited to the book launch?
I'm not invited to the book launch.
What
Have
did you do to this guy?
80%,
God?
yeah.
And then the day after the launch, I go to exclusive books. I find the book. And
the
I
shelf.
page through on the shelves. Page through, I'm not acknowledged. And yes, I saw the book is written unauthorized. Now, I see Mr. Mashele on television on JJ's show at 8 on Wednesday the 10th. And Mr. Mashele is asked a direct question about funding of the book, and he lies. So I found myself in a moral dilemma. Do I keep silent about this issue? Mr. Mashele is already starting to lie about the funding. The book is already sold as unauthorized.
You're
I'm
not acknowledged.
And I'm not acknowledged. There is no disclaimer about the extent of Mr. Mashele's involvement in aiding Mr. Mashaba and the activities of Action SA. There is no disclaimer. Now, I say...
So he's involved in aiding Mr. Mashaba
Yes,
on
he is.
activities of Action SA?
Yes, he is. So now the issue for me was, okay, I keep quiet. 10 years later, someone finds out this.
Yeah.
I would have been part of a lie, of a conspiracy that would have been perpetuated by Mr. Mashele and his lies.
Okay.
And I would have done an injustice to myself for not claiming my name to be included in the acknowledgements. So I wrote to Jonathan Ball, the publishers. I say, I have 3 concerns. One is that I'm not acknowledged. I need an acknowledgement. 2 is that the book is authorized. It cannot be unauthorized. And I indicate my reasons why I'm saying it's authorized. Because Mr. Mashaba gave permission for us to work on the book. Mr. Mashaba provided funding for us to work on the book. You can't call it unauthorized.
I want us to take a step a little bit backward. To say in 3 years that you've worked in the book, one would say, I mean, for Prince to have done such a drastic, act to not even acknowledge even one line in the book, having worked in 3 years. During that 3 years that you worked in the book, I want us to give a context. Did you have any fallout with him? And how many books you have worked with him before? How many are they, where he had acknowledged you?
Okay.
Just to give a context there.
So, this is the context. Mr. Marshall and I have worked on several projects together.
Okay.
The reason why he approached me is because we had a relationship of trust. We had a professional relationship in which we have worked on several projects together. I have a consultancy company which I have used to subcontract or to consult with some of the projects working with Mr. Marshall. So we have that history. Now, the fallout happened when I visited Mr. Marshall with my wife. As friends, we visit each other. I went there to his place, and we started a conversation. And by the way, this conversation, I was seriously under pressure from 2 people, from Prince and my wife. They were raising questions about my continuing to commentate on television and radio. On politics when I have now declared that I'm HNSA. And they were saying, you are not objective.
Okay.
And I said, look, I have not called myself an independent analyst. I have always called myself a strategist. I said to them, there is a person called Joel Nechitenje in the ANC. Does he not comment about the economic or the
inflation and the rent?
About the state of our economy? He does. You've got strategists in all political parties who, from time to time, they write articles in the public domain. There's nothing wrong with me doing that. So I'm not calling myself an independent. I'm a strategist. Now, that conversation about objectivity went into the book. And we were talking about, the book is coming, we're proud of the work that we've done. Now, in the context, in that discussion, there is an issue about subjectivity as well. To say, but with you guys, especially myself, having now become a member of HNSA, how objective can we say we have been in writing the book? So we were discussing, that's the context. Now, as we are concluding the conversation, my wife then says, a book such as this is very important, and it is definitely going to shake, our political discourse. Now, but as a researcher herself, she says, as a researcher, I would have preferred that this book is not funded by its own subject, so that at least you could have maintained that line of objectivity. So, fine. We continued with our social engagement, and then we left peacefully. There was nothing wrong. We left late.
There was no bad blood.
There was no bad blood.
We were happy.
And as usual, as it is our want as friends, you will send a message to say, I have arrived home safe. I did that. Now, in the following day, I wake up to a message from Mr. Marshall, which says, yes, we had a good time, but I'm not happy that you have shared too much information with your wife.
So the problem was with you sharing too much information about the book with your wife, the executive mayor at the time.
Yes. So then there is also a message that says, please call me. And I called. When I called, the guy is fuming. He is saying to me, you have shared too much information. I say, what information? He says, yeah, no, but Mpo knows about the funding. I said, yes.
Yeah.
I did.
She's your wife, yeah.
She's my wife. Yes, I shared with her that we got paid. got paid for working on the book.
Could it be the fact that your wife knew about the funding, it then exposed their intention to lie about the funding of the book by Prince Mashele? Could that be the case?
I don't know. You should host. You should host Mr.
have him,
Mashele.
to explain.
You should host Mr. Mashele to explain himself. But
Yes, yes.
But I never, you see, we were conducting research around the book openly. So there was never an impression that was given that the issue is a secret. Mind you, we were 4. It's us and our wives in that conversation about objectivity, subjectivity, research, bias, and so on. That's how the conversation around the book was. Now, he is on the other side of the line and he's fuming. He's saying, I've broken his trust. He will never again work with me and he doesn't want anything to do with me.
After 20
I
years?
said, no, but
25,
but what is the problem? He says, no, you should not have shared with. I said, but Prince, Mpo is not my girlfriend.
This guy is Prince, by the way.
Mpo is not my girlfriend. She's my wife.
Yes. We've been made one.
I have a responsibility to indicate to my wife how I make a living. And I am very proud that I am able to make a living out of intellectual work. And for me to have shared with her that I worked on a book for 3 years and I was paid, I do not find anything wrong. If you don't tell your wife that you are getting paid for writing a book, that's your problem.
Maybe it's a side hustle.
That's your problem. But I don't think that there is nothing wrong here. And he was fuming. So that is what I know to have caused a relationship of 25 years.
And you not to be mentioned on the book.
Yes, because he now says on television that he instructed them to remove my acknowledgement. So the acknowledgement was there.
So you've never met since?
Yes, no, we have never
you
met
and
since
Prince have
that
not
time.
said.
No, we have never met.
How?
And by the way, there are people.
He said he was not invited to the book launch.
I was not invited to the book launch.
Not invited.
I was not given a complimentary copy.
You've known each other for 25 years,
Yes.
worked with for 25 years. You had meetings with your wives present. What could be so difficult? Why can't you drive to his house, knock at the gate, or press a bell, or however you access his house?
I have known Prince for those many years. I did not fight with Prince. He's the one who has declared war. And I'm not using this word for nothing. That's what he said. He declared war with me. So I am not the one to go to Prince and grovel before him and seek reconciliation.
And attention.
There is nothing wrong that I've done.
So
There is nothing wrong that I've done. And by the way, even if we had fought and it was a genuine, Prince has no right to erase 3 years of my contribution.
Were you paid for that contribution?
Yes, I was paid.
Could he not argue that because you were paid, then he can remove you?
You see, that's a technical argument, right? But if you're going to continue to market this book as a product of research, then you are perpetuating a lie. You are claiming somebody's work as your own. You need to acknowledge that this research, you didn't do it yourself on your own. You need to say, I could not have produced this without the contribution of Mr. Brutus Malada. Now, let me share with you this book. This book was funded by the IEC. It's a 10-year review of the existence of the IEC. Now, the funding was given to the University of Pretoria when Mr. Mashele was working in the politics department. He was the project manager and he had the responsibility to assemble a team that would contribute to this book. I have a chapter in this book. Professor Mcebisi Ndletlana was brought in by Prince to work together in the book and they would be co-editors of the book, meaning their names will appear on the cover of this book. There was a fallout in the process of writing this book, which led between Mr. Mashele and Professor Ndletlana. And Prince walked out walked away from the book, from the project.
So
he left it.
The project and
So this fallout issue seems
He,
to be
he
happening.
left it. He left it. He left the project.
Yeah.
A year later, the book was concluded, and here is an acknowledgement.
So he left the book halfway, but he still have.
Here is an acknowledgement by Professor Ndletlana, now who has taken over the project to lead it himself and see to its conclusion. Professor Maxis Kuman of the University of Pretoria responded eagerly to the invitation that her university writes the book and has gently but firmly steered the book towards completion. Heather Tainsma was magnificent in managing all the activities among the contributors, the university and the commission. For his contribution in the initial conceptualization of the book, Prince Marshall deserves special mention.
The integrity of Professor Ndletlana, right there.
Yes,
Acknowledging
exactly.
men.
There was a whole team of, I can't remember how many we were, people who contributed to this book, right? And everybody is aware of that fallout. But Professor Ndletlana, a year later,
Still remembered.
he had the decency and he decided to be an honorable person and acknowledge that he didn't start this project by himself.
So Prince
There
Marshall
is
has
a
anything or
contribution.
two from Professor Ndletlana.
Yes, he is acknowledged despite the fallout. Now, why did Professor Ndletlana do that? It would have been unethical of him to claim that he conceptualized this book from the beginning, when actually he was recruited to be part of the book. So the fallout happened, but you can't wish away someone's contribution. That's exactly what Professor
So
Ndletlana
it's
did.
sort of like the intellectual capacity that needs to be acknowledged.
Yes, exactly. So I am aggrieved that I can work on on a 3-year project, and then someone creates a dispute when they're about to publish, and then they just instruct the publishers, erase his name.
Are you taking any legal action against Prince Marshall?
I have said to Mr. Marshall, and I have also said to Mr. Marshall, I don't care whether they take this book and publish it in Namibia, whether they take it to Mozambique, wherever they're going to try to publish it. I'm going to write to those publishers that I need an acknowledgement. So this fight is not over until I am acknowledged. And this book cannot be published as unauthorized.
Yes, authorized.
This book is authorized. The subject of the book paid for it, gave permission for it, supported the project throughout as we were writing the book. So it cannot be unauthorized.
How much did the subject of the book, Mr. Mashaba in this case, paid for the book?
The payment of this book was 12,520,000.
Here's 12 million rands, 520 rands, 20,000 rands. Tell us, what goes, Mr. Malada, into the book or the writing process that requires 12,520,000 rands? I could do with that 20,000. It could change my life. Just the 20,000. What kind of writing is this? The Bali robots, or just break it down for a man like Osan and I, who wants to write the book about the shirts one day.
So this is firstly, I was full-time. So I was full-time on the book. So meaning I resigned from my job.
Your paying job, yeah.
My paying job. I was a director.
At the city of Johannesburg.
Yes, at the city of Johannesburg. I was a director. I was earning already above $1 million rand per
So
annum.
any good parks from the city.
I was earning above $1 million rand per annum. So 3 years, that's 3 million. So when we negotiated with Mr. Marshall, I said, this is what I'm earning at the city of Johannesburg. I'm not going to, we have a relationship of trust.
So he trusted you.
Yeah,
Yes.
so I'm
At
not,
the time.
yes, I am not going to resign to work on a book project that is going to pay me less than what I am earning at the city.
So you wanted him to match the 1 million salary?
Yeah, or give me a slightly more. So we factored those things on. So I can account for my 3.3 million that it was 3.3 million over 3 years, which means that I was paid almost 3.1 per annum.
Just for interest sake, how were you paid? Were you paid monthly, or were you paid after producing a certain segment of the book?
I was paid monthly.
So you were by like full time, you're drawing a salary from Mashaba or Prince Mashele?
Mr. Mashele was paying my consultancy company every month.
Oh, okay.
So what I was doing, it means every day I was focused on the book. Either I am reading a book, either I am researching or reviewing documents, or I am following Mr. Mashaba where he was.
And he was aware that you were following him
Yes.
in order to write the book.
Exactly.
Hence your argument
So,
should be called authorized.
Yes, because Mr. Mashaba would have his support staff share the diary of his work,
Okay.
so that we know where he's going. If we think it's significant for the book, we would go and listen and take the speeches, and also just have an understanding of what this is about. Let's say there was the inner city rejuvenation.
Yes.
And maybe Mr. Mashaba was going to address a forum in the inner city.
Yes.
We would
As the executive mayor.
go there and listen to what he says, so that when we write a chapter about Mr. Mashaba introducing the concept of renewing the inner city, we at least have that understanding of what is it that he's trying to do. So that was the work that I was doing. So I was full-time. Mr. Mashele can account on the 9 million.
So you got 3 million of the 9 million, of the 12 million.
Yes.
And then you got 9. Are you aware if he was paid the 9 million or it was to be paid with another arrangement?
My knowledge is that Mr. Mashaba honored all the agreement. Mr. Mashaba is an honorable man, he's a man of integrity. We had an arrangement that will be paid. What Mr. Mashele promised me that the money will be in when it happened the way we agreed. So I have no reason to doubt Mr. Mashaba. The arrangement that they had was between them. But insofar as my payments were concerned, there was never a dispute around the payments. So I know for a fact that Mr. Mashaba paid the full 12 million.
Yeah. I think the parting shot from me, from my side, is to say, I mean, you seem to be going out to make sure that, other than to have your name acknowledged in the book, but it seems to me, I don't know, like there's a bigger fight as an academic. What are you hoping to get out of this?
Yes, thank you for asking about that. Yeah, okay. I'm doing this thing for two reasons. The first one is exactly what you're saying. If a person like me doesn't stand up and fight this phenomenon of academic thuggery, a lot of researchers up and coming will suffer at the hands of people like Mr. Mashele. And it will be very, very wrong. It will discourage interest in academics, in academia. So I am fighting so that we don't perpetuate this thievery, this thuggery of stealing other people's work and not acknowledge them. The second thing is that I am dependent on, my livelihood is dependent on intellectual work. Now, I could want to write a book in the future. And I approach someone. Let's say I want to write a biography of Mr. Cyril Matamela Ramaphosa. And I go to him and I say, I am a writer, I want to write a book on you. An authorized biography. And then he says, but who are you?
So
I will be able to say, Mr. Ramaphosa, you see in this book,
I see book.
I have a chapter in this book, chapter 10, which is Voter Education in Post-Apartheid South Africa, written by Brutus Malada. I will say I have made a contribution in this book. Read the acknowledgement. I will be able to say, here, the biography of Mr. Mashaba, I worked on it for 3 years. That book could not have been produced without my contribution. Here is an acknowledgement. Without that acknowledgement, my claim remains a claim that cannot be verified.
You cannot back it up.
So it is wrong. So that's why I'm fighting. Mr. Mashele has no right to erase 3 years of my existence doing what I like. And
This is as good as plagiarism, basically.
Exactly. I am calling it what it is. It's like academic.
Does it also feel like he's erasing your name from the history? Because I think this
Exactly. Yeah, here is the thing. And I need to state this. I joined HNSA. I can tell you that 3 years of working very closely with Mr. Mashaba made me to feel that I need to be part of this thing.
Yeah.
Right? And having been part of this book, I knew that this book is going to make an impact. And like it or not, timing that is here. This book was timed. We are going into an elections in 2020.
So it's an election strategy.
Yeah.
This book, it's published now for people to know Mr. Mashaba better, so that he can appeal to you by reading the book. Yes, we tell his story as we saw it, right? So, yes, I would like to be part of making that history. Yes.
Have you spoken with Mr. Mashaba since the fallout with Prince Mashele about the book? Have you? I mean, you're still a member of the Action SA. He's the president. Have you
brought the matter up?
Yeah, brought the matter up maybe during your meetings.
Okay, let me start at the end. I met Mr. Mashaba on Sunday.
This Sunday?
This Sunday.
Okay, today is the 30th of May. This is important because by the time this episode goes out, the dates will be... So it's the 30th of May today. This past Sunday, which was, and it's Tuesday, so 29, on the 28th of May, you met with Mr. Mashaba.
Yes, I met with Mr. Mashaba on this issue of the book. I had reached out to Mr. Mashaba on the 10th of May when I saw Mr. Mashele lying on television. And I said, I called him, and he responded with a text to say he's abroad. I sent him a text, and I said, Mr. Mashaba, I'm aggrieved about what happened in the book, and this was a courtesy call to alert you of the steps that I will be taking for my own recourse. I expected Mr. Mashaba to call me back. He did it. And then I went on Kaya FM, and he was on radio. He was talking about the book and about the fact that I did not reach out to him. So I had to correct that. I needed to make that correction on
Mr.
air.
Mashaba had also lied.
He had said I had not reached out to him.
Which was a lie.
Well, he was very economical with the truth.
Why do you seem unready to call
okay.
Mr. Mashaba a liar and you were forthright on Prince Mashaba?
Here is the thing. The way in which he was asked the question,
okay.
it was as if to ask whether
you've met.
Whether we have met.
Okay.
And Mr. Mashaba gave an impression that he was surprised that I could go out in the media without firstly bringing the issue to him by meeting with him and explain myself.
And you must have forgotten that you were supposed to call him.
No, he had not forgotten, but I clarified that I called Mr. Mashaba, and I did the same on JJ Tabane's show. And I said to JJ, I reached out to Mr. Mashaba, he didn't come back to me. I was left with no option but to actually fight for my rights. So Mr. Mashaba called me after JJ's show, and he said, I was watching your show, your interview, and I would like to meet with you so that I also hear your side of the story. And I met with Mr. Mashaba. I was grateful for him giving me the audience, and I went to his house and we spoke about the book, what transpired, and the sequence of events and so on. And I made my points very clear. That it was unfair for Mr. Mashele not to acknowledge my work. It was wrong for Mr. Mashele to mislead the publishers and agree that the book is published as unauthorized. It was also wrong for Mr. Mashele to lie on television about the funding of the book. And we shared those sentiments. I indicated to him that yes, I still reserve the right to fight for justice, for me to be acknowledged. And that is the fight that I will pursue.
And what did he say?
No, he agreed with me. He was very troubled by the way in which the whole story dragged him and sort of started to question his integrity. His own view was that this was never supposed to be a secret. His expectation would have been that Mr. Mashele would have been open with the publishers and would have published the book as authorized. And yeah, that's what I got from Mr. Mashele.
Does this fiasco of a book in any way threaten your membership with the Action SA? And should there be any threat, would this mean you'd be willing to part ways and join your wife with the DA?
I have no intentions to join the DA.
Okay.
And as far as I'm concerned, I'm still a member of Action SA.
Yeah.
My membership is there, it's active.
Valid for
I have not received any call from anyone questioning my membership. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm still a member of Action SA.
Would you join the DA if you were to leave Action SA, or if you were to be fired? People get fired in the Action SA. Or in any political party for that.
I wouldn't join the DA. The best I would do would be for me to pursue my professional career rather than to go to join a political party such as the DA.
So you never joined the DA?
As things stand, Mr. Brutus, where are we with the book?
The Jonathan Ball made a decision to withdraw the book from the shelves. They have withdrawn from the project, so they are no longer part of it. So my understanding is that Mr. Mashele has an obligation to Mr. Mashaba to publish the book. I don't know how. He will have to approach another publisher to have the book published. But as I said, whether he is self-publishing it or is publishing it with another publisher, whether he goes to Mozambique to publish it, I am going to make sure that I fight for my recognition. So anyone who cares to listen, I'm going to tell them that Mr. Mashele is peddling a lie if he does not acknowledge me. And this book is authorized, not unauthorized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Malada, for sharing us a story with the book that you may or may never read. One day you're probably going to come across the same book written the authorized biography, or you may never see the book at all. Be that as it may, we thank Mr. Malada very much for sharing his story. This has been another interesting and fascinating episode of The Sheds. Keep following us on social media. Thank you very much for watching.